A Tyler church is ready to reopen its doors after 15 months of rebuilding.
First Church of Christ Scientist was almost a total loss after falling victim to the East Texas church arsonist last January. CBS 19's Field Sutton toured the congregation's new home this afternoon.
Chuck and Jillian, it's tough to believe that it's been 15 months since Jason Bork and Daniel McAllister set fire to the First Church of Christ Scientist and so many others. Now take a look over here, because the front of the church with these 4 columns is one of the few parts of this building that survived the fire. Nearly everything else had to be rebuilt, literally, from the ground up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dick Summers, and this is Peter McCook. Hi. And we're members of First Church of Christ Scientist, Tyler, Texas. In early January of 2010, on a Sunday evening, we got a call that our church was on fire. And by the time I arrived, I think it was an hour and a half after the fire had started, the appearance, of course, was, as you'll see in the pictures, it was a total loss.
First responders were everywhere. Fire trucks were pouring water into what used to have a beautiful roof over it was wide open and flames going from one end to the other.
Yeah. The next morning we all met out on the parking lot, and we more or less started putting our plans together. The media was there, and they asked us, of course, what we're going to do, and our natural response was, we're going to rebuild the church, but we weren't sure how we were going to do it, but we were going to do it. And there was an ATF officer here at the time. That's the first time I had known anything about arson. That's what he said, that they suspected arson from their investigation at that point. And then 3 days later, we had our Wednesday service in the reading room, which is about 5 or 6 blocks from the church on the same street. And during that service, we had a noon service. And during that service, we received a call from the First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, and it was quite a surprise because we didn't really know them. I know some of the members over there, and so did you, Peter. But
and they're not far from us; they're just a few blocks north of this building.
And they offered their chapel for us to have our church services on Sunday, on every Sunday until our church had been rebuilt, which they knew was going to take quite a while, quite a number of months, if not over a year, which it did. We had our Wednesday services in the reading room. We all just kind of packed in there, but it worked out really well for us. And we never missed a church service in a church.
And what a blessing that was to be able to go right on. And it just showed the resilience of our little church community here, of how one neighbor helps another. And we were very grateful for that. And I think I might interject here, Dick. Very soon, it was probably within a couple hours after that Wednesday meeting, I got a call from one of the pastors in another local church asking if someone in our church would speak at a prayer rally in support of the community and rallying as a church community, as one church body, to protect ourselves from whatever this arsonist was trying to present to us.
An issue of money came up. How much insurance did we have? If we don't have enough insurance, do we have enough in our treasury to cover the overflow? Well, we had to get costs down from the contractors, and we started interviewing contractors. And some of the more high-profile contractors were giving us figures that were, well, they were out of our reach.
So the Inspiration Committee met. They were meeting weekly.
Yeah.
The Building Committee was meeting weekly. The Inspiration Committee came to the Building Committee and said, you need to get a roof on this church and get it high and dry. And could you get a roofer to come in and roof this thing out and get us dry? And that was a very critical early step that we took.
Well, we had a snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
We had an unusual snowstorm. I mean, it was a heavy snowstorm. I mean, it was ruining everything. And then we had to get cleanup. The city was after us to get this cleaned up, and we got some bids on the cleanup, and it appeared that it was going to cost between $8,000 and $9,000 to get all the rubbish out of the church, and that seemed like a pretty fair price until they found out that it was contaminated with asbestos, and then we had to have all the spacesuit people come in.
Another idea that was shared in the Inspiration Committee, which I didn't attend regularly, but I know they were working with Mrs. Eddy's, with the building of the Mother Church, the book that talks about the building of the Mother Church. And that was quite helpful to us in our reconstruction project to recognize that nothing could be built without healing going on. And so we recognized we really had to heal ourselves in a lot of different ways.
That's right, and going back to the contractors, we were talking to contractors outside of the city, and they were still coming up some awfully high figures, which we were believing. And one day, a local contractor, a roofing contractor, had informed us that they were going into the commercial construction business. You remember that? And and they would like a shot at offering a bid for the church, and we said that we'd certainly entertain their offer, and it was much lower than all of the other bids. We're now saving money. We're saving big money. And, well, the Historical Society got involved in it. They came by and they said, if you'll put it back like it was, we'll keep you on the historical tour. It was as if it had never happened.
The journey from almost total loss and back again has been a long one. It took countless prayers and nearly a year just to get things cleaned up. By December, the church finally had a roof.
Some of the donations that we received were not monetary, but the churches gave what they had that they could give to us, including replacement of all our hymnals. We had furniture offered to us. I think the one big ticket item that we needed and we knew we would need to replace was our beautiful pipe organ. The console organ entirely was burned in the flames and had to be replaced. And a church in Florida not only gave us their organ when they closed, but drove it here to Tyler for us and delivered it to us. I keep going back to Mother's Evening Prayer and that statement that she says, loss is gain.
Yeah.
Because truly that's what we saw.
Yeah.
We really got better than what we had.
Mm-hmm. And even at the very end, when we finished everything, there was a Girl Scout troop that came over from Dallas to work all day in our flower beds. And that just gives you another idea of how much cooperation and help that we received.
It's a replica of what it looked like in 1948. It's the same, just the doors were here, I just got them built the same exact way.
Every single door in the building was destroyed by the fire, many of them by firemen's axes, except for these. They're original to the building, and along with the trim up above, they've been restored.
Now Debbie's my wife Deborah McCook is going to visit with you a little bit about some of the things that our church has learned from this experience.
As Peter told you, our inspirational committee was reading The Building of the Mother Church, the Amplified Edition, and we gained just huge encouragement and inspiration from reading this. There were so many things that were parallel to what we were going through as a congregation. On page 12 of the preface, it said, "It is healing that builds churches of Christ scientists and their edifices. Today, nothing short of healing will do it." And we were hearing testimonies of healing at our Wednesday meetings from our membership, healings of anger and of fear, healings of resentment, towards these young men that had done this. But especially after these two young men, these arsonists, were apprehended, we felt nothing but compassion for them. They were so young, and that's all we could feel was compassion. I truly feel that We had a full sense of forgiveness about this. The outpouring of love and fellowship from our local community here in Tyler was just amazing. We felt like we gained a better understanding of what compassion is from this experience. You know, the fact that the Presbyterians housed us, they didn't hesitate to share their edifice with us, and for 15 months it was just such an unselfish giving that we couldn't help but learn more about compassion from this whole experience. Our demonstration of supply was huge. We saw proof of the statement that was on the front of our edifice, where Mrs. Eddy says in Science and Health, "Divine love always has met and always will meet every human need." And this was just unfolded to us in countless ways. Our whole definition of church, I think, was expanded to include everybody in our community, not just a physical structure, but the structure of truth and love, and that this church stood secure on the rock of Christ's healing. The definition of fire in the glossary of Science and Health reads in part, affliction, purifying and elevating man. And we could certainly say that this whole experience purified and elevated our concept of church. We feel like we have a stronger church, a more compassionate church, and we're just filled with gratitude for the many, many blessings that we experienced. And we'd love to have all of you come visit us in East Texas.
And as another Easter comes and goes, the congregation focuses on its message of forgiveness instead of the sin that burned their church.
We are looking for the good that's truly going on, and that God is in control of His creation.
One of the details that the congregation was most concerned about getting right was the steeple. The old one was built entirely out of wood, whereas this one is concrete and styrofoam. So a lot has changed in 63 years.
Well, the First Church of Christ Scientists will be holding its Easter service at 11 a.m. this Sunday.